Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Legit Fantasy Basketball. Brother Ray here, in control behind the wheel. And joining me tonight is Coach TJ. Great to have you on.
Hello, sir. It's a little
So,
it's a little different without King Mike at the helm, isn't it?
it's me. It's me.
Hey, the energy level to start with him. Yeah, I don't know where he's at. Where he's at tonight. We had a successful go of legit fantasy baseball. Baseball season's really starting to come into gear right as the NBA is starting to get towards the playoff push.
Yeah, and that show's getting better and better. I mean, you guys really are nailing it. And again, for me, it's such, I mean, especially when you're talking fantasy, when you're talking pitchers, it's just a whole nother ball game compared to, basketball and football and some of the other fantasy sports.
It takes a lot more time. There's a lot more to know. There's just 1,000 guys, literally 1,000 guys on major league rosters. And basketball, especially fantasy basketball, you're pretty much dealing with 6 guys on each team. So you got half the inventory, you got a third of the inventory. So it's a lot easier to dive right into baseball. I know the genius and King Mike wanted to get into baseball, but it's a process because there's a lot of guys to get to know. Whereas the NBA, you could jump right in. And as long as you've been a casual fan, you can become a deeper fan just because the nature of the game.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's just a whole nother ball game. But for the stats guys out there, it's just that whole aspect of pitching and trying to figure that out. And it's just, it's a different level, I think, of fantasy.
You could say it's nerd stuff. We know.
Hey,
we already
I'm in
know.
that boat. Nothing wrong with that. All right, so let's talk some basketball. We got some games going on right now. Obviously, really big game right now going on between the Sixers and Golden State. Philly hosting Golden State. Right now, it looks like it's tied. Now Philly was up early, but Golden State's came roaring back. I mean, I don't know. It's just good to see Steph Curry, playing the way he's been playing. Just to show glimpses of when that team, was really good.
He's been unbelievable over the last, 5-10 games. Right now, he's second in the NBA in scoring. Let me just give you an idea. The last few nights out, 47, 33, 42, 53, 38, 32, 41. I mean, this is ridiculous scoring right now from this kid. And they're winning the games. It's not like he's scoring and he's doing it in games that don't matter. He's scoring in actual games that do matter. I don't know what the line of tonight's game was tonight, but I would have been inclined to take the points in Golden State. I'm assuming Philly was favored at home because no one can guard this kid right now. I can call him a kid. He's grown. But, yeah, they're trying to make a playoff push. And I'm telling you, I think this team, Golden State overall, has another run in them. I really do when Clay gets back. I don't know if it's a 3-year run, but I think they have another run where they can go and be the 2 seed in the West. I really, really believe that.
Yeah, that's the X factor. I mean, when they get Clay back and you figure, when Wiseman is back in that lineup and as he develops, they have the nucleus there and it looks like they have some of the pieces now. Some of the, they have a big man in Wiseman that I think can be the solution for them. I mean, like you said, like they get Clay back, it's a whole different ball game.
If you add Clay to this team right now, I think they're better than Denver, immediately. Even if Clay's not as mobile as he was, if he could just not miss, which he doesn't miss, Steph is not going to go from second in the NBA to scoring to 8 points a game overnight. If there's going to be a decline, the decline is going to happen gradually over 5 years. I feel like he wants to keep playing. So this is a big game tonight for Philly. Philly's in the toughest part of our schedule right now. This, it was a 6-game. I think we've been through 3 of the 6 games that are the meat of our second half schedule. If they get through that and they're still in the 1 seed, I don't see why they can't just hold on and lead wire to wire.
Yeah, and they've been playing really well. I mean, you got to give Philly credit. They held their mustard, while Joel was out, and I know myself included, I thought they were going to fade. I thought they were going to fade from first place. I thought Brooklyn was easily going to surpass them. And I thought maybe they might even fall, to like third or fourth. But I mean, they've held it together. And I think you got to give Doc a lot of credit for him to step in with basically the same team from last year and do what he's done. He just relates to them on a different level than Coach Brown did. I don't think there's any doubt.
I agree with that. I mean, Embiid looks like an MVP. He looks like the best. When you're watching the Sixers game in years past, you felt like Embiid could be the best player in this game right now. When you watch a Sixers game now, you know Embiid's the best player in the game, and he's just eating everybody alive. Doc's done a great job. I was a little hesitant. I don't know, because he was with the Celtics. I just never really liked him that much. But there's no question. There's no question he's done an unbelievable job, and to get the 1 seed would be crucial because now instead of having to play the Bucks in the second round, you get to play the winner of probably Atlanta and Boston the way it looks right now, and I think that's a winnable series.
Yeah, and I think that the thing with Doc too is, he's coached in big markets,
Mhm.
Boston, LA. So, walking into Philly, that is no picnic. So he's been able to handle that. He's well versed in dealing in a big market like that. I mean, I loved his introductory press conference going back when they first hired him, and he said, "Hey, there's only one Doc in Philly, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna have to call me something else," which is funny because everyone still calls him Doc. But that's just the kind of guy he is. He's a stand-up guy, no nonsense, and he's really getting through these players right now.
His resume is so good, and he's been in the game so long that he's not scared to give a difficult answer to a question. Like, it doesn't bother him to say that Maxi's not playing tonight. Like, it doesn't bother him to do that kind of stuff. Whereas Brown, you always felt like he was struggling with the media. Like, you really did. He wasn't the best with the media. But I really like the way Doc's the whole team's approached it. Right now, they're down by 2, and Thibault just missed the dunk. But yeah, that's the game of the night tonight. I'll tell you what, there's some really good basketball this weekend on ESPN. The Knicks game, the Knicks Pelicans game was outstanding. That was an outstanding game. I like what both teams are doing. I feel like New Orleans should have if New Orleans was in the East, they'd have a better record. But that fourth quarter and overtime was good basketball to watch.
And that was a statement game, I think, for the Knicks. It really was a statement game for a young team like that, for them to come out and to win that game the way they did. That's has to bode well for a young team.
It does. And I don't know how many times they've been on the national broadcast, not very many. And for Randall to come out there, and he looked great. He had like 30 and 10 or something like that, 10 assists. And that's a game they had every business to lose in the last 4 minutes. They were down. They came out. They showed a lot of heart. They looked like a team that belonged. And we've said it before on the show. It's good for the NBA if the Knicks are good.
Absolutely. And we talked about Randall last week. He's finally kind of grown into his body. He's a man now. He's a legitimate NBA veteran. I know when he first came into the league, he really didn't have full control of his power. You know what I mean? He's developed that now, and he's become a professional. And I didn't expect him to be as good as he is this year.
And then you notice what happened though when you get in the big stage, you get on national TV. Derrick Rose gets the ball again. I thought that was really telling about where they are, because every game's not like that for them or for him. But big stage, who do you trust? We trust our veterans. We trust Derrick Rose. And he had the ball a lot. I know he scored over 20. Nerlens played very well for them. I'm sorry. Nerlens played very well for them. I love how when I click on a box score, ESPN thinks I want to watch a video in like the top left corner of the TV. But yeah, so that was cool for the Knicks. Yep.
Yeah, CBS does that to me too. Like every time I click on something for CBS, something starts blaring and I'm like, great. Like I can't just like click on something. But yeah, I mean, good to see the Knicks. I mean, good to see New Orleans too. I mean, I loved him when he was at Philly. Just didn't work out. He was taken pretty high, and he wasn't that player, and that's just one of those things. I mean, you have those high picks in those years, and you got to draft what's there.
So to me, with him, there were two things. One, I don't know how much he works at basketball. Like, I don't know. He doesn't seem to be the kind of guy, like, he doesn't move like a guy who plays a lot of basketball, really. But his skill set, um, his skill set was an NBA role the whole time. It just wasn't the man, but a shot blocking defensive gazelle who runs and works hard. There's nothing wrong with that guy. It's just when Philly had him, we didn't need him to be that guy. We needed him to be the freaking franchise, and he wasn't going to be the franchise. But
yeah, and I know Hinkie was infatuated with those skills, the way he could run the floor, the way he could block shots defensively, and they just with the hope that he had enough touch and enough agility to kind of work on that post game, and to be a contributor on the offensive floor. I mean, he wasn't ever going to be a 30-point scorer, but with his defensive ability, with the new NBA, I think that's what Hinkie was looking at. And again, it is what it is. But I'm really glad to see another guy who's growing into his body, knows what he can do, is playing to his strengths, and responding to good coaching.
True story. Yep.
All right. What other games going on? We got the Celtics and the Bulls. Looks like the Celtics are up by 6. What's your take on the Celtics, Coach? I mean, they've kind of been itching up the standings. They've been playing better. I mean, do you think it's for real? Or do you think it's just an apparition?
Well, part of it I feel like is the schedule. Part of it I feel like, I don't know. I'm not sold on them. I'm really not. But you're right. They have moved right up the standings. I think they're a very, very flawed team. They have no bench. I know they signed Jabari Parker to try and breathe some life into the bench. It's still, to me, it's Tatum and Brown and nothing else. They have right now, Brown has 13. Tatum hasn't even got going yet. But if you look at the 5 guys that played for them off the bench tonight, it's Jabari Parker, Grant Williams, Naismith, Cornette, and Langford. Like, to me, that's not real. And Tristan Thompson's in there in the middle. He's just eating minutes. He doesn't do anything. So, no, I'm not sold on the Celtics in any way. I know people still think they're going to finish in the 4 seed, but, they beat a dilapidated Lakers team. I know they beat Denver and Portland, which is kind of something to get excited about. I don't get excited when you beat the Timberwolves. They look terrible in that game. And, hopefully they lose tonight.
Yeah, I agree. And being from this area, it just seems like there's actually a lot of optimism. I mean, they had a good week last week, and it's, everyone's talking playoffs and, what can they do? But like you said, if you look at it, they really just don't have the horses. It really comes down to that. They don't have the horses. Brown and Tatum, yeah, they can score a lot of points, but, I just don't see that chemistry and that cohesion that's necessary for championship basketball.
I agree. And, maybe they win a first round series and everybody feels really good, talks themselves into them making an upset. But the 3 teams in the East that are ahead of them are so much better than them that you're looking at, they're losing in 5. Like, I don't see that they can't push any of those 3 teams to a 7th game. Philly has manhandled. I'll say what you want. We always make fun of Horford. Horford made Embiid work for everything. And I don't think Embiid was as good then as he is now. Embiid, eats the Celtics alive. There's no way they can come and beat Philadelphia. But, there's some optimism there right now. They're on a winning streak. I don't blame them. But yeah, I'm not sold.
Yeah, we'll see. Right now, they're still up by 6, so it's at the half. So we'll see if they can hold on over there and get the W. Another game. I mean, the Pistons and the Cavs, again, 2 teams just looking for any type of solace in a year like this. I mean, Detroit, they draft Hayes in the first round. I mean, he's had a lost year. Hasn't been able to get on the court. He's playing tonight. It looks like he's got 8 assists, 4 points. So he's having a decent night. He's getting some run out there. What do you think about Detroit?
Well, I think when you say, what do you think about Detroit, what you're really saying is, what do you think is happening in this draft? Detroit needs a franchise player is what they need. I don't think it's a place. It just seems like a basketball dead zone right now. Kevin Love's got 13. Poor Kevin Love. What a rule. But yeah, they got to get young. They got to get lucky in the lottery. I mean, we know how it feels being Sixers fans to be that shitty team in the NBA. I don't think they're doing it on purpose. Is the thing. I feel like maybe now they are, but they never had the full out sellout to tank. But right now, they pretty much need one of these guys that they draft in the lottery to become, much better than I think the experts think they are. Because I don't feel like there's a consensus that anybody coming to the draft next year is like an absolute league changer. I don't feel like I have that vibe, coming from the draft guys. So tough place to be for the Pistons right now.
Yeah, I mean, Josh Jackson, Sadiq Bey. I mean, Isaiah Stewart, who's a promising young player, but it's just not enough. You need that legitimate superstar, and right now it's barren. I mean, same thing when I look at the Cavs. I mean, they've been adding guards left and right, but I mean, it's the same old, same old. I mean, Garland, Sexton are decent players, but how are you going to compete?
I thought Cleveland coming into the year was going to be a playoff team. I really thought that Sexton and Garland would be good enough as a backcourt. I mean, what's different between Browd and Tatum and Sexton and Garland, except for a couple inches in height? Like, if Boston can be the 4 seed with 2 guys and a bunch of scrubs, then why couldn't Cleveland do it? And it just hasn't worked out. They had a lot of size, and it disappeared, guy by guy. And now you got Kevin Love out there playing major minutes. He's just
for now. For now, he is.
Belongs in a men's league at this point. But yeah, that's a tough game to watch. That's got to be tough to watch for the fans involved.
Yeah, just not good at all. But yeah, so I mean,
Milwaukee and Phoenix is going to be a good game. It is a good game. That's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it looks like it's 25-24 right now. Milwaukee with a slight edge, but again, Phoenix. We've talked about Phoenix all year. I mean, they have the young pieces in place. It really is all about seasoning. I think for that team.
I agree with you. They did a heck of a job in bringing Chris Paul and just brings it all together because Booker, Ayton, and Bridges are good. They're good. And then Jay Crowder's just down there to make sure nobody on the bench goes to the strip club, I think. But, Milwaukee. I'm rooting for Milwaukee to lose games. I'm rooting for the Nets to lose games because I really think that 1 seed is that important. I like the matchups when it's like the East-West matchups like this with Phoenix and the Bucks because you kind of – those aren't teams you're used to seeing match up against each other. They only play twice a year. And when's the last time anybody in the world was excited about a Bucks-Suns game?
Exactly. Yeah. Or that it meant anything. And, in the realm of the NBA. So yeah, I mean, it's good. I think it's good for basketball when those teams start to develop again. I mean, we remember with Phoenix when Charles was there and Dan Marley, and they were a contender, almost won a championship. But no, I think
Barkley was the best player in the world that year. He was better than Jordan for that whole calendar year. Jordan knows it. Barkley knows it. Anybody who follows basketball knows it. And I know you can't say it because the kids say no one was better than Jordan at anything ever. No, that year Barkley was the best player in basketball. And I was so rooted. Obviously, I think every Sixer fan was rooting for Barkley to get that ring, but it wasn't to be had.
Yeah, no. I mean, he was phenomenal that year, and again, they almost did it. So I mean, you got to give Charles credit. One of the best Charles stories I think I've ever heard was his rookie year with the Sixers. And Julius tells it. He said it was like the first day of practice, and shot goes up. Julius went in there to box out Barkley, and Julius said the next thing he knows, he's in the 3rd row. So,
I believe it. He's a big boy. He's a big boy, and he's no way. I think they had him listed. He's like 6'3", the dude. He's just a special player. And now he just says like the most random shit. The best is when they have him doing the NCAA stuff, and he doesn't know the guys. Like he has done no homework. He's okay at halftime because he'll tell you what he just saw. But when you get him in a pregame show talking about 2 miscellaneous teams, no clue. It's great.
Yeah, and the those announcers, they know it too, and they love to
Mhm.
ride them and then push them, and it's yeah, some great stuff. I mean, they have some great chemistry, that crew.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, we're getting to crunch time. So I mean, right now there's only a couple weeks left in the season. I know for a lot of leagues right now they have a fantasy playoffs. Uh, so hopefully everyone's doing well. Everybody's got their lineups in. I know injuries have been just tough this year. Between legitimate injuries, between rest days, between COVID, it's just a nightmare. So do your best. Hope hope your guy stays healthy for the week and you don't have too many rest days. But we've talked about it, Coach.
Now, is that how it goes in your fantasy league? You put the lineup in one day for the week. So
Yes,
you're coming in on a Monday morning. You're putting your best guys out there, but you're really at the mercy of what these guys decide to do.
exactly. For an example, one of my guys is Jimmy Butler, and I know I've talked about that before on this show. I love Jimmy, but it's tough to have him in your lineup in a week when, like, a game like tonight, he took Sunday off, he's taking tonight off,
Is
and
he
now I
really
gotta
not playing tonight?
pray that he comes back.
He's not playing tonight?
He's not playing tonight.
That's crazy because
It
they're
is
in
crazy.
a playoff race.
That's what kills me. Like, it's not like it's they're not pulling a pop here where the Spurs have it sewn up and they're emptying their bench and giving everyone rest. He's just pulling another rest day. Supposedly it's an ankle injury, but for any Jimmy Butler owners out there, let's commiserate because it's tough. It's tough owning playoff Jimmy.
It used to be so guys used to be relied on to play the whole schedule. So you would look at the week schedule and okay, Miami plays 4 times. Awesome. Not only am I going to stop Butler, I'm going to go pick up one of their bench guys because I'm going to get 4 games out of him. But now if you play 4 games, it's kind of like worse because now he's not going to play all 4. So it's a question: is he going to play 2 or 3? And I'm very surprised that Butler's not playing tonight. And they just came off a nice win over Brooklyn. It doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and in my lineup too, my fantasy lineup, we have 16 on our roster because of COVID. We added some extra spots just so people would have players that they could use. And out of my 16 players, 8 of them are injured.
Oh my goodness.
8.
So
Valanciunas not playing. He's out of my lineup. Lowry had like 4 consecutive rest days last week. Two games this week. He's not in my lineup. It just goes on and on. So
just take a week off. I don't know. Yeah, take this week off
because it doesn't matter. Like you look at Toronto right now; they're completely in. Let's get through this season mode. So yeah, I mean, fantasy playoffs. That's the way it goes. You just got to try and adapt and be creative with your lineups. But good luck, everyone out there. It's
I didn't realize that so our fantasy basketball league, we would do the lineups daily like we do with baseball, which made it a little bit more bearable because at least you had time. So what I do, for baseball, I'll go on at about, I don't know, I try and get it by noon because it'll tell me if a guy's getting a day off or what spot he's hitting in the lineup or whatever.
Right.
I would pretty much do the same thing with the NBA. I could wait till a little bit later in the NBA because there's no day games usually. And it made it a little more bearable, though still annoying because this is your team. But yeah, if you had to do it on Monday this season, my goodness, you're just holding.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's nuts. And we were going to change it. We had thought about changing it to daily just for COVID purposes. But to be honest with you, even with a daily, some of these announcements are right up until game time. Like 7 o'clock, we have a 7 o'clock cutoff. Tonight it was like 7:01. Jimmy Butler is not playing tonight.
No kidding. Yeah, so you can't do anything. There's nothing you can do unless you're
stuck. Yeah.
You're gonna hire. You're gonna pay off the doctors at 30 different teams to figure out who's getting days off. And I don't know what the NBA can do about it. I don't know what they can do. I know somebody got fined this week for abusing the. Somebody got fined, but what is a fine to an NBA team? It's nothing. 10 grand. Are you gonna fine the Mavericks 10 grand? What do they care? Like, really, what does Mark Cuban care?
Yeah,
It's like,
I mean, that falls out of his pocket, in
you
his
know,
car.
that's like losing a penny, and that's like losing a penny at the mall and going back in to find it. Like, really, that's Mark Cuban with 10 grand. But I don't know what team it was. Don't quote me that it was Dallas, but I know somebody got fined for abusing the substitution, the sick day stuff.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So, I mean, coach, as we look at the standings right now and we look at the teams, week after week, we try to update this and see what we think is going to happen. Um, what do you think as far as the Western Conference? Who do we think right now is the team?
Well, the problem is the Lakers are such a wild card because I'm not going to pick against LeBron. I'm just not going to do it. So if I'll go down with the ship. Like LeBron goes to the finals pretty much every year of his career. He's in the finals. So why wouldn't he be? But they're playing bad. They dropped down to 5th, which isn't good, right? So now you got to go to Denver and Utah, which say what you want about Denver and Utah, though they're not like the sexiest places in the NBA. Right. They're two places that are tough to win. Both of them are altitude places, and you got a team with who might be lacking in the win department since how long they played. But to me, and Utah, I feel like Gobert's the biggest guy in the conference. He's going to be a problem. So if it's not the Lakers, I think it'll be the Jazz. But there's 4 or 5 teams that can win the West.
No, I think you're right. I mean, and it's funny. I mean, we talk about Utah and like, all right, when's the bubble going to burst? When's LeBron, when are the Lakers going to kick in? The Clippers will, with that lineup, when are they going to assert dominance? But, they're still hanging on right now. I mean, the gap has narrowed. I mean, Phoenix is right behind them. But like you said, it's a different ball game once the playoffs start and the Lakers are completely healthy. Are they going to be able to beat them?
And then the Clippers started up another notch. I'll tell you what, it would be justice if we get to the Western Conference Finals and it's the Jazz Suns. I know it's probably not what Adam Silver wants to hear, but it will devalue the regular season even more than it already is if we get Lakers Clippers and they just smoke those two teams. And it's Lakers Clippers, and it's like, well, these were the 4 and the 5 seed because they didn't feel like trying in the regular season. There would be justice if the Jazz and Suns got to the Western Finals, but I don't think anybody who's sober would ever make that bet.
Yeah, I don't think so. And the Clippers too. I still think with their talent level, they have a chance, but it's just you just don't know. Like just when you think they're gonna, really start asserting their dominance, they'll throw a clunker in, and it just. But that's the way the NBA's been all year.
It is. Now, if you get the Clippers, I just pulled up the Clippers page. They signed Yogi Ferrell today. I like Yogi Ferrell. That's cool. Good for that. Good for him. But if you get the Clippers and the Suns in the semifinals, are you not taking the Clippers?
Right. Yeah.
You're taking the Clippers is what's going to happen, and they're probably going to win. And yeah. So.
Yeah, I agree. I
don't think Kawhi's stock is up here anymore like it used to be. How about that? That was all bullshit. Remember, Kawhi's as good as LeBron because he won. That was a backbreaking shot against the Sixers. Good for him. He won the finals. But they started with the Kawhi's the best player of the world stuff on these national programs. And it's like, are you guys serious? Really? You really doing that?
I'll tell you what. It was the perfect timing for him, too, because he was able to get, pretty much write his ticket out of Toronto, get paid the big money, get the max money.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, San Antonio, there were issues. He had the medical issues. He was questioning the doctors. They were kind of painting him as a malcontent. And give him credit. Went to Toronto and he completely turned. He flipped that page.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he's definitely one of the 10 best players in the NBA. I just think the hype got so big where it was like unattainable. Like, okay, dude,
he's a weird guy, by the way, Coach. I mean, have you ever heard him like interviewed? I mean, he's a weird cat.
Is he? Well,
he's a weird cat.
He doesn't like the microphone. I could see him going to play in Milwaukee with Giannis and just being like, "We don't care about none of you people." We're just going to be here playing ball.
I love that vibe. I love that vibe Milwaukee has right now. Seriously, I love that.
Yeah, so when we get to the Eastern Conference, I mean, I'm more worried about Milwaukee than Brooklyn. Like they just look different right now. I caught them the other night. They were playing some garbage team, and I caught them. But they just looked. Giannis is the point guard, first of all, which makes them look like massive because he's coming down on the floor 7 feet, and if he gets one step, he can dunk from anywhere inside the 3-point line. But yeah, they were moving the ball really well. I liked them a lot.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the East, I mean, we'll talk about Milwaukee. I mean, I think the big thing is getting Drew back, and he's really fallen into that too, like that off guard role with Giannis taking the ball up the court, and that's something I think he's ideally suited for.
Yeah, so we get to watch a heavy dose of him. Didn't you always feel like he was a 2 guard playing the point guard?
Absolutely.
Like he's got a knack for scoring. He's got a knack for getting to the basket. Unselfish player. So I think that's why they look so good, because now the first pass is often going to the point guard instead of like trying to. Most NBA sets are like working to get the star the ball. The star already had it, and then Drew's just getting it, moving it. Middleton's having a good year again. He's vanilla and boring, but he's rock solid. Yeah. And they're physical. They're a strong physical team. They're gonna be a tough out. The top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference are they're worthy teams to be there. Yes, they are.
And they all have that same attitude in Milwaukee, that same humble team first attitude. All those guys we just mentioned, Middleton, Drew, and Giannis. So like you said, I think and again, we know the NBA doesn't want the Bucks in the finals. We know that. But Silver could get disappointed. You know, I mean, they could very well be there. You talked about the Nets, Coach. I mean, what do you feel about them right now? I mean, I think we're all thinking we know that they have the lineup to win this thing. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking there's just not enough basketball to go around. It's going to fail.
Well, I think next year they could come in and have the best record in the NBA. I do. Right now, I mean, they lost to Philly. They lost to Miami. Durant's not playing again. I feel like even if they all come together now, there's not enough games left for them to play together and have any semblance of a flow. Like, this isn't the park where you can just, you and your 3 buddies, oh yeah, we played high school together, we know each other. That's not how it works in the NBA. Don't give me this, we know each other from the summer crap. Next season, all 3 of those guys there from beginning to end. That's why I think Philly's window is like, get it done this year, because I don't know that team is going to be beatable. And there's going to be a bunch of vets that want to go play with them to round out the rotation, round out the bench. But as far as this season goes, even if they all came back tonight, that gives them 3 weeks to get ready and get into some kind of a system and learn who plays where. I know what they were doing is having Harden play the point and Kyrie off the ball, which probably makes more sense. But to me, there's not enough time for them to gel to beat a Sixers team that's basically been intact outside of Curry and Green. But those 3 have been intact for like 3 years now. So
it's tough.
I don't see it. I don't even think they could beat Milwaukee, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I think we're starting to see it right now, and I think as the pressure mounts, I think, unfortunately, I think those 3 guys together, it'll be interesting to see if they're able to handle the pressure. Again, we talked about this. Out of those 3, and don't get me wrong, 3 great players, but none of those 3 are really the leaders that you would want on a ball club. None of them's number 1. So
no. Yeah. Even when LeBron went to Miami with Wade, remember it was hard to figure out for them who was going to be the guy down the stretch. And it was Wade who manned up and said, no, listen, dude, it's your team. Like, you're the guy. These 3 guys here, I don't even know. First of all, I don't know which one is the guy. Second of all, I don't know if the other 2 are humble enough to defer to another guy. Like, it's real weird. It's a real weird mix. And a couple losses, took a little bit of the shine off him too. I don't think that Milwaukee can catch him, so they're definitely going to be the 2 seed. But yeah, what's funny? If it ended right now, they play Miami. Ooh,
Yeah, that'd be a great series. I mean, the
they
thing,
feel better for that.
right? I mean, the thing with Wade is like Wade was smart enough and classy enough. He knew he had to do that. He knew he had to step aside and say, "LeBron, this is your team." I
Mm-hmm.
don't, like you said, I don't see any of these 3 guys stepping up to a microphone and saying, it's Kevin's team, or you know what I mean,
Mm-hmm.
or it's James' team. Like I don't see that happening with Brooklyn.
No, and to me, if they had to pick a guy, I think it should be Harden, because Harden is he's more the most. I think he's the more unselfish of the bunch. But he's unstoppable. James Harden is unstoppable in the NBA right now. But again, Kyrie didn't want to defer to LeBron in the middle of LeBron's prime. So James Harden's probably not going to get him to be the third fiddle. Like, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, Harden's got to be the best scorer in the game. I mean, I don't think there's any pure scorer can just do whatever he wants on the floor. Yes, his defense is suspect, but you know what? When you're that good at offense, it really doesn't matter.
Like, we'll get some help.
Oh yeah, I mean, as far as the East, though, I mean, you look at the other teams there. I mean, the Knicks have surged, the Celtics are surging, the Hawks are still there too. What's your feeling about the Hawks? I mean, I think Capella's been a great fit with them this year. They've had some injuries. I mean, Trae Young, we know is outstanding, one of the outstanding players in the game. Him and Luka are basically the future of the NBA. What's your feeling on the Hawks?
I think they're a little bit ahead of schedule overall. I felt like there was some pieces there. I didn't think it was going to get where they're going, and they're young. John Collins is young. DeAndre Hunter is young, and he's going to give you a career. Cam Reddish still. I mean, they have like 8 guys averaging double figures, but Trae Young to me isn't getting talked about enough. I think if they end up in the 4 seed, then Trae Young will be in the conversation a lot more, because now he'll be in the cool kids club. Like you made it. They're time away. I don't even think they're pieces away. I think they just need more time for some of these young men to turn into NBA men. But Trae Young's a tough guard. He's as tough a guard as there is in the league. And yeah, I mean, can they beat Boston? I think they have more talent than Boston. Boston and Atlanta is no gimme for either team. And of course, I'd be rooting for the Hawks anyway. But there's a lot of balance on that club. And like you said, Clint Capella has been a monster. He's an absolute monster.
They have 24 and 25, I think, last week.
Yeah, ridiculous number.
He's on my fantasy team too, and he helped me get to the second round. I saw that line, and I was like, "Oh my god!" My eyes lit up when I saw that.
I mean, guys averaging almost 15 rebounds a game. I wonder.
Yeah, I think he's number 1 for centers, right? I think he's number 1 for centers in the NBA right now.
Hey. Well, he's number 1 for in rebounds.
Yep.
And then he's in the top 3 in blocks. So he's had an effective fantasy season for you, huh?
Yeah, he's a good player. Really, real good player. Yeah, I have him and Jokic.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
So you do well in the post. If only Jimmy would play once in a while.
Well, I have Giannis as well. So yeah, I mean, when my roster's healthy, they're good. It's just
getting them there, huh?
Oh
do you know who's second? Do you know who's second? Wow, look at this. The top 3 NBA steals guys have all played for the Sixers, right? So Butler's first. Drew Holiday's second. And I'll buy you a beer if you figure out who Holiday's tied with. NBA steals leaders. Don't look it up.
NBA steal leaders. All right, I'm not going to look.
He's ahead of Kawhi in this category. Look at this.
Oh my God. Holmes?
No, that's a good answer, because Holmes has had a good year. And it's not Covington either, which would have been my guess. It is TJ McConnell.
Oh, wow. I liked him. I liked him in Philly. He was good in his role off the bench.
Yeah, he always did his job. I mean, that was his job. I think the kid Pritchard from Boston has a lot of that in him. I think Pritchard's a more talented player. But I never had a beef with what McConnell brought to the table. No.
No, he's a steady player. Did his job. Could shoot the ball when he had the open shot. Um,
So being of the 5'10" and under club, a lot of parents will talk to me about NBA players that their child could perhaps be. So of course they always say, well, he could be the next insert small white guy here, right? So TJ
right.
McConnell was the name for a while. So I remember I was talking to a parent about it, and while I was talking to the guy, I was like doing the thing on my phone. Do you know he averaged like 45 points a game in high school?
That's correct.
Like
And
he was like an unbelievable scorer, and I think his father was his coach, but he averaged like 40 something a game in high school. So I had to point out to this parent that while his son has been very good, being selected third team all region in Rhode Island,
Rhode
that
Island. Yep.
yeah, and that no schools have been calling about him. That TJ McConnell's career path is slightly different, even though he's also 5'10" and white. So
Now he was what, Arizona? He played at Arizona or Arizona State. TJ.
I think Arizona.
It's Arizona.
Let me pull it real quick.
I mean, he was a really good player for them. I remember that.
Bio. Hold on. Yeah, definitely Arizona. He's 29. He from Pittsburgh. That's what it was. Yeah, he was in Pennsylvania. Yep. He not tough kid too. That's no easy job that he has being at his size and his relative lack of athleticism. And yeah, I'm glad Indiana's giving him some playing time.
Yeah, you look at some of the guys that got away from Philly, Vukovic, Drew.
Yeah.
Like I know at the time that they were in completely different building mode, but people like Drew, like Vukovic, you just wonder, like, imagine if
I always felt like I always felt they should have kept that group together. I really did feel like they could have went with the Iguodala and the Thaddeus Young's still in the NBA. Holiday still in the NBA. Evan Turner, maybe you got something for him. I mean, he was still. I didn't feel like they had to waste a decade and just blow the whole thing up. I mean, now it's great. We're the 1 seed. We have one of the best players in basketball. Obviously, we wouldn't have him if we did that. But I felt like that team was reaching its prime right precisely when they started to dismantle it. And yeah, I'm never gonna quite understand that. And for Vucevic to turn out to be like the best NBA big man over the last 10 years, you could have had him, with his automatic 20 and 10. He turned out to have a better career than Kevin friggin' Love. How's that?
Yeah.
And we had him and we let him go for nothing.
And I remember when he came out of USC, and I remember when they drafted him and they said, well, he'll be okay. And, there were no big expectations for him. But you look at, he's one of those guys that came in the league, hit the weight room, and completely changed his body. And
now back then they had what? They had what did they have? Spencer Hawes and Mo Spates? Was that the bigs? And they took him. And it was like, okay, why are you taking him? We already have 2 centers. I thought Spates was always good in minutes. He just couldn't play a lot of minutes. And he could have been the piece. And right now he's in Chicago now, I believe.
Yes.
And he's giving Boston the business as we speak. He's got 25.
Wow.
And they're in the 3rd quarter.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, as far as other teams in the conference, I mean, the Pacers pretty much doing what the Pacers usually do. The Hornets, I think that's a young team that really intrigues me. I mean, Ball missing time has hurt them. Graham's been missing some time as well. But I mean, they have some young pieces there too, and I think there's potential.
There is, and Rozier's a good player. Like he's legit. The Celtics let him get away. I think everybody thought he was overrated, but apparently we were wrong. He's tough. Yeah, they're going to be a playoff team for years to come. Ball's legit, and he's only going to get better. He's just starting out. I don't think Hayward's part of the big picture there, but they gave him a lot of money, so he'll be there next few years. As we get into next season, as the preseason ranking come out, I think you'll see Charlotte moved up into the upper middle class of the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and as far as free agents, I mean, what do you think next year? What's your feeling? I mean, obviously, it's going to be everyone's dealing with the same thing. Trying to get under that apron. it'll be the same teams trying to grab that extra player. The stars dictate, and that's really why I hate the NBA. That's one of the things I hate about it. It's just it's the Pied Piper syndrome, right? It's like, okay, like, and Brooklyn now becomes one of those teams.
Right. So you'll see vets that just want to go there. Like you'll see the Rudy Gay types being like, yeah, I'm gonna go hang out here and come off the bench, go 5 for 9, score 11 points and go home, win a championship. I haven't really looked into this class. I'm not hearing the gossip like there's a big mover to be like, I don't think any of the big main, top 10, 15 guys, they all seem like they just moved. So they're all kind of locked up, if I'm not mistaken. I know DeMar DeRozan's a free agent. He'll be a nice get for somebody. He's a pro. He's a starter. He's not going to recruit players or anything like that. But you could find him maybe, giving a boost to some team. Lowry, I think, is a free agent. Teams will want him. I don't think Philly has any money because we paid everybody too much money. But, yeah, that's a good question. I'm going to look into that free agent stuff. Next week, we'll have a conversation about it.
Yeah, and I think Lowry's intriguing only because I know there was a lot of talk, speculation of him going somewhere. I mean, I know Philly was one of the places.
I've been hearing Lowry to Philly since he got into the league because because he's local, and that kind of thing. But I don't see where's the money to pay him. He's not going to he's not going to give us a hometown discount. No. This is probably his last big deal he gets to sign. So, maybe he pulls a Chris Paul and just goes to some team you don't even see it coming. And
yeah, and he's got a ring. I mean, he's already got, he's so
right. Now he's going to go do what makes him happy. He's got nothing left to prove.
No. But he'd be an excellent addition even at his age. Like I think every year everybody writes him off, Lowry. I know in the fantasy world, everyone does. I mean, he always drops low or lower than he should. And then he comes out and he's 20 and 10 assists. Like, he fills the stat sheet still at this age.
One thing about him, he's always had an old man game, even when he was young.
Yeah.
So I bet he's not as old as like your brain tells you he is, because he's always played like that. Like right now this year, he's averaging 17 and 7. Like no big deal. Not now he's 35, but even when he was in his 20s, he still played like he was 35.
Yeah, and he didn't some of these guys are like all buffed out, buff athletes.
Mm-hmm.
That was never him.
Nope. He's just coming out looking like, yeah, I'm here to play some basketball, guys.
Makes me feel good when I see that,
Right.
Sick of these buff young guys. Damn it. So yeah, I mean, again, we're getting close to the end of the season. I know a lot of teams. We talked about fantasy, the implications of injuries, and a lot of teams are in their playoffs right now. So, just gotta get through it. See what happens. I know that crazy things happen. Somebody you put in, you may not expect, can just take off, or you may have someone on your roster who's a backup, and those injuries end up being opportunities for some teams. It'll kill some teams and ruin their lineup, but someone else will have an opportunity because they have that player waiting in the wings on the bench.
It's an opportunity league. Like, for example, if Steph were to get a night off, you might get a big night from Andrew Wiggins that you weren't expecting, going into the week. Like, that's the kind of stuff that happens. Except one guy who is not going to have a big night is Danny Green. So it really doesn't matter who you have on your roster. It should not be Danny Green because he's atrocious at basketball.
I just don't understand. Like, I don't understand him. I mean, I know he's a good defender. And, we get into that whole wing thing again, like, oh, he's a wing. He can play the D, 3 and D. But it's the same thing. Like, you see the same thing I see. Whenever I watch them, I don't think he scored 10 points anytime I've watched them play.
Like, why isn't Thibault getting his minutes and he getting Thibault's minutes? It's very simple. I'm not saying get the guy out of the rotation. I'm not even saying don't play him in the last 5 minutes because he's a better shooter than Thibault. And, like, maybe he hits a big shot. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe he wins us a playoff game. But why right now does he need to be playing, like, starter minutes? It doesn't make sense. He doesn't score. I'd rather just see Thibault out there getting those minutes, perhaps becoming better at scoring. I don't know, but yeah, there's something about Danny Green, man. That's docking his vets, though. That is a doc. He's been known for that in his career, like playing his vets.
Yeah, and I know Thibault, obviously he's young, he makes a lot of mistakes, but defensively, he has more potential than probably any wing right now in the NBA. I mean, you look at his capability as far as steals and blocks. I mean, he can change a game as he develops. If he can get some discipline and start hitting that 3-point shot, up that percentage a little bit. I mean, you have a significant contributor there.
And you're starting to hear, like on the national level, when they're talking about the Sixers, they're starting to mention Thibault as like a real difference maker on defense. And once that reputation gets to you, then it's something to live up to. So I think his future is bright. I just don't know if his future is in Philly. Like between him and Maxey, I feel like one of them at some point is gonna grow up quick enough, and it's gonna be time to go. And we need that trade bait anyway. What else do we have? But
yeah, and I will say I was happy when they drafted Maxey this year. In the past, it seems like Philly would not go with the short thing like that. They would trade for a player from Europe or trade for the rights for somebody. But he dropped in their lap and they rightfully took him. So I mean, he's someone that you need in this league. The current NBA, you need someone that can shift from the 1 to 2 and be able to play defense. And he's more mature than his years are showing right now.
Yeah, I think long term he's going to have a better, definitely offensive career than Thibault. But I don't know if you can keep both of them for the long term. But while we got him here, I think both down the stretch will be valuable because that 1 seed is important, and hopefully they get it. What's the score now? It's close. Still close.
Golden State's up by 3.
All right.
So it's close.
That's
The Bulls pulling away from Boston.
I like to see that.
We're up by 8. Yeah, let's take a look at some of the other games tonight, TJ, and tell me who you like. We got at 9:00, which is right about now. We have Memphis at Denver.
Yeah, so I'm seeing a line Denver -7.5. To me, that's too big of a number. But didn't you say Valanciunas isn't playing tonight, or he is?
Yeah, he's not playing tonight.
If he's not playing tonight, then there's really no one there to guard Jokic. So if he's not playing tonight, I probably lay the points.
I agree with you. I love Denver in this matchup. Let's see. Then we have Utah at the Lakers,
which would be fun if Anthony Davis was playing, or if other guys were playing. But yeah, I think Utah blows them out. I mean, Utah's very good against the spread. Donovan Mitchell's not playing tonight, though, just so you know.
Interesting.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell is not playing tonight, so I still like Utah, giving the points. But yeah, that's important to know.
Big time. All right. I mean, since we have some time, let's talk about some games on Tuesday.
Yeah, sure. What do we got?
All right, we got first one. We have Orlando at Atlanta.
Orlando at Atlanta. Yeah, so I'm going to be this time of year right now, with a couple of weeks left. I think each team has 10 games left. I'm all about teams that are in the playoff hunt beating teams who aren't, right? So when I look at Orlando, Atlanta, I think Atlanta's going to handle their business and get the win.
I agree. I think you have to go with Atlanta there. I'll be curious to see what that spread ends up being. Another interesting game. We have Charlotte at New York. Again, Knicks red hot right now.
They are, and I'll stick with the Knicks. Mostly from a fan perspective, but yeah, I like the way the Knicks played the other night. They showed a lot of character. So yeah, I'm about the Knicks tomorrow night too at home.
Yeah, they've completely changed the mentality on that team. They've completely changed the mentality, and it's great to see them playing the way they are right now. Another game tomorrow night. This is a very good game. Brooklyn at New Orleans.
Brooklyn at New Orleans. That's going to be entertaining. That's going to be the TNT game. It has to be the TNT game.
Yeah, that's the TNT game. Yes, it is.
Yeah, you would figure that. Zion's being tough. I'll tell you. I've been all over the place on Zion all season long. Like I thought he was going to be Larry Johnson. I think I'm still right that he's going to be Larry Johnson, but he looks better than that. It kind of depends on who plays for Brooklyn, but right now I'm all out in like rooting against teams that affect the Sixers. So I'll be rooting for New Orleans. I do think Brooklyn's probably going to be the favorite. So if you can get some points, then I would take them, unless for some reason all three of the Brooklyn's guys aren't playing, which is also very possible.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a great matchup. I tend to want to go with New Orleans at home, especially with Durant not in there. So I'll kind of lean towards New Orleans. Obviously rooting for them as well, being a Sixer fan. Go to the 10 o'clock games. We have the second TNT game. We have the Clippers at Portland.
Yeah, so I've kind of jumped off Portland a little bit. I feel like they, as good as they are, they still have up and down, up and down, up and down in them. I like the Clippers. So some road teams got to win tomorrow night. I feel like the Clippers can win. It's a primetime game. You're going to get a good version of Paul George tomorrow night. So I'll take the Clips.
I agree. I like them on the road. I think in this instance, I know Portland's got some injuries too, so I agree with you there. I would take the Clippers. The last 10 o'clock game is Minnesota at Sacramento. Wow.
Boy, that's tough, huh?
Oh, man.
Boy.
15-43 versus 23-34. Wow.
So the easiest job in the country is the guy that looked at the Clippers. It was like, okay, we can put the Clippers on for this TNT game, or what's our other choices? And it's Minnesota, Sacramento. I don't know. I mean, we're supposed to be giving people the best advice we can give. Mine is not to touch this game because there's just nothing going on over here. Both teams are terrible. Sacramento finally won a game the other day, which was amazing. If I had to pick one, I would take the Kings, but I would really just avoid this whole thing.
Completely agree with you. I mean, if you're going to bet your money on a game with two teams that, winning doesn't matter. Like just showing up is about the only goal that they have in mind, getting through the walkthrough. Yeah, you don't want to put your money on that game for sure.
Really, especially now, because this is when you start experimenting with different guys. Where you start putting rookies in, or you got guy on a 10-day that you just want to see how he looks. I prefer at this time of year, now that we know who's in it to win games, you got to be betting on games where the teams playing are trying to win. And that goes for full lineups. And you could tell, you watched that Knicks Pelicans game the other night, both teams played to win the game.
Oh, yeah.
And this game, it's going to have a walkthrough atmosphere. It really is. And that's why I think if you have to, you take Sacramento, because I think they have a little more in the backcourt to score if it gets ugly and sloppy. But yeah, it's tough on a handicap.
Yeah, that Knicks New Orleans game was essentially like a playoff game. I mean, imagine if we could see that every night from every NBA game. That's got to be the goal of the NBA. I mean, they need to look at their product right now. And we've been talking about this ad nauseum. You don't get that in every game. That was like a unicorn, that game.
Yes. And they got lucky because they all kind of hit at the same time, because there were like three good NBA games over the course of the weekend. And maybe we're just spoiled, but I feel like in the NFL, every game, any station, every Sunday, some of the Thursdays are a dud sometimes, but teams, you can't just quit in the NFL. You'll get hurt. Like you'll physically get hurt if you're an offensive lineman decides, you know what, I'm waiting for the clock to run out. Right. In basketball, you can show up and just be like, yeah, man, we're going to play at this pace tonight, and we're just going to play through. And it makes it real hard for the gambler. It makes it real hard for, if you have fantasy guys on these teams, to know what you're going to get.
I agree completely. Well, I mean, those are your picks, folks. Bet wisely, get those bets in. some good views there, and some good info. Obviously, we'll get the lines tomorrow. But I mean, you can base your bets kind of on what Coach said and what I said. So hopefully, you guys go out and win some money. We're right at the end, Coach. Anything else you want to talk about before we leave?
No, that's it. I'm looking forward to this Philly second half right now, and I will see you on Thursday.
Sounds good. And everyone, please tune in tomorrow for Legit Fantasy Wrestling. That's coming back. So hopefully we'll have King Mike and also the Genius on there as well. TJ, I think you're going to be involved in that.
Say that one again.
Fantasy Wrestling.
I might just chime in a couple of shows. I don't know if that I can be a regular, but I've been really all in on pay-per-views. I started in 85. I'm up to like 1992. I watch them when my wife goes to bed. And, I miss old wrestling. It was fun. But my kid loves it. I'm into it just by default. So I like to hear guys talk about wrestling, especially if it's old school wrestling.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm the old school guy. Andre the Giant, Bruno Sammartino. I mean, being an old guy, those are the guys that I used to watch. So
see, here now, like the storylines, you have to watch like 9 hours a week to follow every storyline. I feel like so. I can't do that, but I can hold my own. I can hold my own with those guys.
I hear that. And also, guys, remember to tune in on Thursday. We'll have fantasy basketball again. We start off with football at 7 and then fantasy basketball at 8. And obviously we have the 11 a.m., the one that started it all, Legit Fantasy Football on Sundays, 11 a.m. So for Coach, we thank you for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow night and the rest of the week. Good night, everybody.